The thoughts, views, and opinions of In the Red podcast and its host and our guest is strictly for entertainment purposes only.
All right. So we here. All right. Election's over. And your boy won. All right. Wait. Before we go too far, let me get thing. I want to send out a speedy recovery. Speedy recovery to my good brother, Buckshot Shorty. He was egregiously assaulted in Brooklyn, in Flatbush, and this video floating around, horrible. It's a bunch of different storylines going around, but nevertheless, listen, speedy recovery. It looked really bad from what I saw. I don't know the whole story, like I said, but speedy recovery to him, man. Good dude. You know what I mean? One Flatbush finest. You know what I mean? Respectable. Don't know him to ever be anybody to bother anybody. Just good guy. And we have to get into the practice of, man, like, I keep saying it, man, we got to protect our gems, man. And Buckshot definitely falls along those lines of being a gem, not just a Flatbush gem, not just a Brooklyn gem, but a hip-hop gem, rap game gem. So, speedy recovery to him, man. I wish him all well, man. I hope he comes out ahead of this thing. Secondly, and, it wasn't a particular order, my condolences to the family and friends of the great. I don't know if I have enough words to explain the greatness of this man, but Quincy Jones, man, that's passed, I believe, at the age of 91. Boy, what a life, though, right? Some could only wish to live the life that you truly want to live. Really and truly, if you think about it, what hasn't he done? And what hasn't he done in an amazing, like, at a high level, whether it's been music, some of us, or some people might, when you hear Quincy Jones, you immediately think of Michael Jackson, and that's fine, but he's so much more to this industry, just in general. What he's done with the inside of music, outside of music, but I mean, this is a man that went from do you call him, what do you call somebody that plays the trumpet? A trumpeter? No, it's whatever the name, but he started off playing the trumpet. I believe he had, the story goes that he had like an aneurysm in his younger years, and the doctors suggested that he don't ever play the trumpet again because it would virtually end his life. And he was able to turn that around, and instead of just, woe is me and falling to the wayside, he turned his talents up tenfold, and writing scores for orchestras. Yes, Michael Jackson, but so many other artists, even actors. You hear Will Smith talk about, you hear a ton of people talk about Quincy Jones in different genres, not just in music, but also different, from like acting, music, books, writers who say they were inspired by him, great all around, man. So with that being said, man, listen, my condolences to the amazing and great Quincy Jones, well loved, Love the work you did, your job. But back to reality. So, your boy won. Mr. 45 is now, what, Mr. 47, right? And a lot of people have a lot of things to say. And let me just put out a disclaimer. I'm going to say a couple of things in this pod, and I don't want anybody, because I did a pod before with my fam, and I realized, like, over time, like, people took it the wrong way, like I was caping for them. Wasn't that at all. It was, if you're not going to like somebody, or you're going to like somebody, whatever your choice is, let it stand on what's reality, what's truth. You know what I mean? Don't just go off of clips that you heard, or, things people told you, and you just, regurgitating those things and not looking at the full story. But my question is, was this a situation of he really did great, or did she do poor? All right. Let's start the show real quick, and then we'll get into it. All right. Enough of that. So, listen, I have this has been one of the craziest elections that I think in my lifetime I've ever experienced. Anybody my age or older, I don't think there's been a crazier election. From the conversations I've had, even with people older than myself, I don't, from their words, this has just been odd. It was odd from the very beginning, right? So, and I've been asking people this, like, during the election, and especially since it's happened. So by the time y'all are hearing this, the election, of course, the election done, he won. We stated that, right? But I've been asking people this, and let me be clear, like, if you and I are friends, right? If you and I are friends or associates or what have you, and your political choice was different from mine, that doesn't change anything. And I don't think it should for people, right? Political choices, religious choices, that is your choice. Unless your choices are physically harming people, you know what I mean? Your choice is your choice. Now, the people will say, oh, well, if you voted for him, then you're voting for crime, and not necessarily crime, but you're voting for whatever else is attached to him, right? But this particular pod, this is not about that. I have a huge problem with how this election went down, the things that were happening during the election, and when you deal with facts and you deal with the numbers, and you start to realize, okay, was this a situation of piss poor, what's the word I'm looking for? Here's the thing, scratch all that. I want to know who's on Kamala's team. That's the real question. And you know what? And let me not take full credit for that thought process, because I had the thought process, and then I was speaking on it, and then in turn I end up listening to Joe Budden's podcast, and they were saying something similar. So anybody that would happen to listen to both, if that terminology sounds familiar, yes, but it's a general thought, because a lot of people are having the same the same thought process, right? So it's not somebody biting off anybody. It's really just the same. Like, who was on her team? It felt the whole time that it was a thing of she was constantly just playing catch up to whatever he was already doing. Like, it just seemed like he was always ahead of the game and you're playing catch up, right? I didn't like the idea, when there was a point, I want to say like last month or so, and it was the word, like, all right, she's not really convincing men of color, right? And women were jumping to her side and saying, "Oh, it's because she's a woman," or whatever. You had a lot of men that would say, "Oh, she's a woman," and I get that, but I'm talking about the legitimate men who were just like, "Yo, I feel like she's not speaking to me." And women were battling that. There was some men that were battling that. Just because she's a woman. No, you're not listening to what is being said. You're just listening to that first part that, oh, she's not speaking to me. It's not just about, people like, oh, she's not answering questions. Not just that. It wasn't just that. And full disclaimer, I was rooting for her. The problem was, and I recognized it early, it can't just be her, because every candidate has a team, and the team is supposed to dig in and find what the people want and play towards that. Give the people what they're looking for. The whole time it felt like, they're just jumping off of the bandwagon of whatever he's doing. We're just going to combat that, and that should be good enough. And that's not going to work. It's not going to work. First of all, let's keep in mind. Let's start from the beginning. She was given to us, right? Whether those who were behind her want to admit it or not, she was given to us. It wasn't a choice, right? Just the way the whole thing played out. So you have to remember, a lot of people, people of color, we come from a place, we don't really like to be told what to do, right? And then it's like, all right, we don't have a choice. We have to take you. Okay, we take you. The situation is the situation. What it is what it is. We can't do nothing about it. All right. So now we have you. We're here. We got you. Now, all right, what are you doing? Now, people would say, oh, well, her policies, she didn't really, no, she had good policies. But what it boils down to, don't feel like it was enough standing on her too. Meaning she wasn't really standing on her ground, like, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I plan to do. It felt like those things came out in short spurts, but what was playing bigger to the masses was every time you waited for him to say something or do something, and then you just say, oh, look what he's doing, I'm going to do the opposite of that. And that's not good enough. That whole thing of, hey, well, at least, I'm the lesser of the two evils, so to speak. Yet we can't play that game again. This ain't the time for that. We had that with Hillary. That was the game that we played then. Oh, well, at least she's the lesser of two evils. That's not going to work. We played that. It didn't work well, right? You got to give us something more. So again, when you're hearing men say, or men of color saying, yo, you're not really talking to us. Like, let's just be real, and let's just stick with facts and numbers and so forth and so forth, right? When you boil down to it, and you looked at the end of what the numbers were, right? And there was a guy that broke it down really good. I wish I had saved the clip. But it wasn't really he won by a landslide kind of thing. It wasn't like, it was more so like she had less numbers than Hillary, right? He had damn near the same numbers he had when he ran the first time. So his numbers were really on point for what he was doing. So it's to make it make more sense. In other words, the numbers he got from the last time are not identical, but almost identical to what he got this time. Let that sink in. It really wasn't, he didn't do like astronomical numbers to say, oh, he won by a landslide, or he did this by no, it was not that at all. She just ended up getting less numbers than her Hillary or Biden. And when you let that sink in, you're like, yo, what happened there? Now, as the election was going on and you were seeing what states she was winning and what states she was losing in, people were shocked by when she was losing in Louisiana. And to me, I wasn't really that shocked. Well, one, because I have family and friends out there, right? And they kind of keep me up to date with what's going on. But I also know that it's one of those places where, and I don't want anybody to take the words wrong, but like the family values out there are very heavy. Meaning that, okay, if, and this works, this is a lot of how like the South works. And this is no disrespect to anybody, so just hear me out. They still placate to the idea like, all right, the man of the house is going this direction, right? And everybody in the house is going to follow suit, right? So if the man is saying, hey, man, I'm not liking what I'm hearing, the family may disagree, but they'll disagree amongst each other, but we're going to ride with what, the man of the house is saying. Right? And a lot of that is what happened, especially in Louisiana. Right? Again, it goes back to, who was on her team and who was on his fucking. I tell people all the time, like, all right, I'm going to go by the people who watch this pod are people who are probably within the same mindset as myself, or maybe smarter, right? Right. I'm going by that. He was not talking to us. That's not who he was talking to when he talks. He talks to the people who are, and not that I'm rich or whatever, I don't know, whoever watches, but not, I'm talking for me. He's not talking to me. He's talking to the people who are less fortunate than myself, right? And what happens is the things that might be said that would make me spark and double think of what he's saying, or may spark excitement in the person who is less fortunate than myself. Meaning, when you say certain things like, we're going to, put more money back in your pocket and blah, 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 for the person who's less fortunate, those are the things he wants to hear, right? For the people who are in the same tax bracket as myself, would be like, okay, there's not really much you're going to do. Your tax breaks and stuff don't affect me, so you're really not putting any money back in my pocket, right? I'm not in the tax bracket to get those things that you're offering, because I'm in the weird place of being too high financially, making too much to receive those things you're offering, but not making enough to get the tax break, which leads back into the middle ground, right? So those of us who understand like, it's not. And my thing is, her team should have been looking at that, and you're saying it, but you're saying, okay, I'm for you guys in the middle, and okay, great, but what are you saying? What are you doing? Right? And then you're putting out. Let me tell you, and people are fickle, especially in this day and age, where how social media is running and how things go. I remember there was a whole backlash because she said, or maybe she didn't say it directly, but it was put out that the leader of the Beehive, right? If you know, was going to perform at one of her speeches, and they came out and did not perform, and she was booed, right? And that played, but you did nothing to combat. Listen, let me tell you something, man. Sometimes you gotta play a little stupid to get what you want. All right, and I know that sounds, but it's true. And I'm just being all the way honest. From the time that started happening, and then people started booing, and you realize this is what was said and this is what's happening, somebody who was backing you should have grabbed in that wallet, make a phone call, whatever. Hey, babe, can you give me 2 songs? 2 songs, that's it, and be out. Even 1.5 songs. Do 1 song and then do crowd work and let the crowd sing the songs while you stand on stage. Don't matter. Just give me something. Something should have happened. Now that seems mediocre to the people who think like I do. But if you're thinking like I do, that would have worked. Because you know what happened when that happened? They immediately went and talked about, how he freed Kodak Black. What is happening, bro? Like this whole election was just one of the most, I don't want to just call it foolish. Like I can't express how dumb this whole thing was. And again, I said, I'm not caping for the dude. I was for Kamala the whole time. But my goodness, man, this is one of the times I said it to my boy the other day. Man, sometimes I just wish I could jump into people's skin, man, and just do what needs to be done and jump out. Okay, have at it, man. Go do what you got to do. But this was beyond ridiculous. Like, who was on the team? Who dropped? Everybody on that team need to be fired. Everybody, part of it. Everybody on that team need to be fired. Because it made no sense when people are saying, hey, you're not talking to us. Meaning it means that you're not saying anything worth listening to. We know what he stands for. We know who the people who backs him stands for. We get that. We know that already. I don't want to hear out of your mouth, you're just come back. He went to Joe Rogan and like, you went on Shay Shay. Why weren't you at Shay Shay first? Why you let him get to Joe? Why weren't you at Joe Budden's joint first? Who didn't let you know that about the? You had so many outlets that you could have went to first and talked to people, answer questions. We all know how it goes. Hey, you know, they don't answer me this, don't answer me that. That's fine. But you could have sat down, let people see the human. You keep going. And yes, it's a horrible thing. It is. I get it. It's a horrible thing. The Roe v. Wade act. I get it. But you can't just rely on just reminding us that this is what he's doing. We know that already. And I'm going to change it back. We know that already. Tell me something. Say something of substance that we can understand and respect. Oh. And then and the people who are back, I get it, man. Listen, I got people, friends, family, going to the rallies, volunteering, all these things, man, all these things, and even when you talk to them and you're hearing back what they're saying, they sound like you. Because you didn't give them anything extra to work with, so even them as the volunteer are like, okay, this is what we got because this is what she said. They can't give us anything extra. We know what he's saying already. We know what he stands for already. Stand on something. Tell me what it is you're doing. Yeah, you're telling me, okay, what your policy. But when somebody, all right, maybe I'm not explaining it properly because maybe it might still be going over somebody's head, and I get it. But sometimes people tell me I talk in a way that people don't understand. You ever been in a perfect, forget relationship? Mostly everybody has experienced a child crying. And you're asking the child why you're crying. And the child just keeps crying. And you're like, all right, well, what's wrong? You're not saying anything. What? That is the equivalent of what's happening. You may have noticed that, okay, there's some stuff on the floor. The child may have slipped. Okay, tell me what's hurting. I know you fell, but tell me what's hurting. And the child, all right, talk. I get it. You're crying. You're in pain. But where are you in pain? And you keep trying to pull it out. And then that is the equivalent of what's happening. Not that she was crying, but it was just like, yo, you're not saying anything. We know you're here. We know you're running. Right? You are our first female black president. I'm going to say it again, just so it's understood. And y'all can go fact check this if y'all want. You are our first black president. She is our first black female. I said black president. Female black president. Now people, how is that possible? That's not about. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because it happened. right? Go fact check it. You know, I'm no scholar. I just happen to pay attention to dumb shit. So here it is. There was a point in time that Joe Biden went in for a medical procedure, right? And for that hour and a half while he was in the procedure, she was the standing acting president. So before they put him to sleep, right, until the procedure was done and he woke up, I want to say it was a colonoscopy. Don't quote me, but I want to say it was a colonoscopy that he got done on. That's what they told us, but I believe it was a colonoscopy. No matter what it was, for the hour and a half that he was going through the procedure, she was the standing president at the time. So she was already president. Nothing heard about that. You know how fantastic it would have been if she had just got cocky at just one of the rallies and been like, "Hey, listen, I've already been your president. I already been your president. What we need to do is just get me back in there so I could be there a little bit longer. Joke it out. Let people think, wait, what? What do you mean she was the president? What do you mean why is she saying that?" And then she has to tell the story. And what is going to end up happening, she'll be in every pod. And what's going to end up happening, people talk, oh, she gutsy. That. You got to play to these people. And that's what he did the whole time. He understands people. And again, not caping for him. But he understands when he's in a room how to behave, what to say in that room. Right? Whether you believe he's a failed businessman or what have you, he knows how to conduct himself in a room. If he needs to be the a-hole in the room, he knows how to do that. If he needs to be the one who falls back and waits for the time to fire into a room, he knows how to behave in a room. And you are the vice president of the country. Your team should be way surpass this guy's team. Way surpass. It doesn't. And I don't want to hear, oh, well, the budget and she now. Listen, man. Listen to me. We saw examples of what could be done with this internet, right? And this might throw people off, but we've seen examples of this more than one time. We saw it first with Kevin Hart. What Kevin Hart got to do? Listen, Kevin Hart was a well-known name, but he wasn't a household name. He was a household name amongst people of color, right? What ended up happening? He started doing those chocolate dropper videos, and they end up going viral, right? And then what he started to do was super engage with the people online, with Facebook and people in the comments and all this, and he was engaging with these people back and forth, and built himself to what we know as Kevin Hart. Yeah, we know him on those movies, and it's messed up to say, but those were like urban movies. He wasn't, he was like, I say, he was a household name in our community, but he wasn't considered an A-lister when he was doing them chocolate dropper videos. Absolutely not. He took that platform of Facebook, turned around, made it work for him, and then the second time we seen that was with Obama. They took a page out of his book. They took 2 pages out of his book and was like, yo, we're going to make this work. And he was everywhere, all over social media. And they flipped it and was able to turn things around. Now, granted, yes, time was an issue, not taking that away. I get it. But my thing also is, it was a surprise to us, but how it went down. But I'm more than sure behind closed doors, it was not a surprise to you. You didn't just wake up in the morning and they said, hey, this is what's happening today. No, there was a conversation before this happened, and nobody can make me believe otherwise. Right? That's not how things work. So there was time to prepare and get this thing together. So, you can't, and on top of that, then after the Obama, who did it next? Mr. 45 himself. Yeah. All right. To the point where they end up banning him on certain social media networks. Y'all remember that? Remember that? Because he was just doing so much. It was like, all right, yeah, he's doing a little bit too much. So they end up banning him. But even that, doing the back and forth. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm gonna eat one of these cough drops. This weird weather is hot and cold and just all over the place. So, excuse me, but have to. But yeah. So the next time we seen it. So somebody should have said, hey, this is what works. The things, when we see you on platforms, it's coming from clips of other people, but nothing from you and your team. Right? Besides the text messages and stuff that was going out from volunteers all across the country. But where was your interaction with the people? You had to be looking at the numbers and seeing, yo, you're doing worse than your previous predecessors, man. How long was it going to take for y'all to get it together and understand what was happening? Who dropped the ball? It's sad, man. It's a sad play. I just want to see now, like, how this is going to play out. I've yet to hear a speech from her. The day that this is recording right now, there was I forgot what state it was, pardon me, but there was questions about duplicate ballots in one of the states. So a great portion of ballots that were in Trump's favor had to be taken out because they were double votes. Right? So, did you not give a speech because y'all are waiting for more numbers to see if, it was some kind of when you look at the map of the numbers of who voted for who. Like, she didn't even win whole states. She was winning towns within states. Towns. Let that sink in, man. It didn't even win. Like, that's like saying, all right, she didn't win. She won Brooklyn in New York City. For those of you from New York, right? So she won Brooklyn and Queens from New York City. You know how big New York City is, man. Manhattan, Bronx, all these. She won Brooklyn and Queens. I'm not saying that's really happened. I'm just saying that's the equivalent of what happened. Like, if you're from New York, you understand, like, she won a borough. In certain states that, you have your counties, you have your towns. Like, she was winning counties and towns, but still losing the whole state. There are states that she won, it might be an over-exaggeration, but it's pretty much what it was, man. And then the stuff that your team is choosing to put out, like, I don't give a flying fuck if you work at McDonald's. How does that resonate with me? You think I care if you worked at McDonald's? You think that was going to talk to the people who are backing you if you care if you worked at McDonald's or not? Nobody cares if you worked at McDonald's. What, Janet Jackson, what have you done lately? They were giving you backlash for your previous work. Right? A lot of people were, going against you, and that was a hell of a fight just to get past that. But really and truly, the honest part of it is, at the time, you were doing your job. Right? Because if that was the case, then, we'll have to hold Biden to a certain flame for things he's said and done in his past. Right? But in the long run, he ended up winning, and we had a certain belief in him. Right? And the same was going for you. We understood what you did, and a lot of us who have common sense was like, at the time, it was your job. People putting out the storyline what was it? It sounded egregious when you heard it. It was a lady that was arrested because of, like, I guess you call it truancy. Her daughter wasn't showing up to school, but what it really was is that the daughter had an illness, and she was out of school many times because of the illness. And then even after it was found out that was the case, still continued to press charges on the mother for whatever reason. Right? Now, as egregious as that sound, there is still things that Biden has done that long bypass anything to what she's done. Right? The numbers even was skewed in how she was locking up people. We, later on found out that the numbers are not as high as people were making them out to be. Okay, great. So the people who are, fighting for you, like, why aren't y'all putting out that? Why are you leaving it for the people to defend you? We got to go and dig the information. Why aren't you coming out? That ain't true. That ain't what happened. This is what it is, and this is why I did it. And I would, listen, me personally, I would have respected, this is what I did, this is why I did it, and so what? We passed that now. This is where it's at. Now what you want to do? I would respect the shit out of that. Now you're talking. Stand on something. Right? But I don't know, man. Well, we're going to see what 2025 brings us. I ain't going to hold y'all too long. You know, I never try to hold y'all too long. But, yeah, I didn't put it out. This should have been out like last week. I said I want to put one out on the 1st and last Tuesday of every month. Right. But because of the election and things that was going on, I left a lot of things, I left some space and some room for things too. But this had to be spoken on. It had to be done. Side note, still haven't heard anybody added to this Diddy case. It's kind of dwindling down now. People talking about it's just jokes, but nobody really has any new information. And like I said before, what's not making any sense, he's charged for racketeering. When you have a racketeering charge, there's usually plenty other people involved. And usually on a racketeering charge, they're all brought in at the same time. Why is it only still Diddy? I have no clue. But gotta let things play out the way it is. Don't understand what's going on with that. And people are adding information to it that is not true. The fact is that it's a racketeering charge. The lawsuits that people are trying to file against him are more so civil lawsuits. They are not connected to his arrest or what they're trying to take him to trial for. Two separate things. And people conflating the two and putting them together. No, they're not. Not the same thing. The lawyers may try to use some of that information, but they kind of can't. If you understand law, that only so much they can bring in, because a lot of those lawsuits came in afterwards, so they can mention it, but those people are not going to be can't really be a part of his trial, right? So if you understand, you understand. If you don't, go do your education. It's not an education channel, right? I believe that's it. I don't really have too much more for y'all. We'll come back to this. Let me get through this week, see what else plays out. But again, I said, man, my condolences to Quincy Jones, another fallen legend, man. We losing a lot of our legends, man. But at the same note, man, we got to protect their names and their work. All right. It's easy to get lost in the sauce nowadays. Everybody's moving so fast, and we don't really sit back and pay attention to the people who put real work in. Some of you artists out here are here only because of people like a Quincy Jones. You wouldn't exist if there wasn't somebody like a Quincy Jones. So put some respect on that man's name, man. And condolences to his family. And again, get well soon. Speedy recovery to my guy, Buckshot Shorty, Flatbush, gem, hip hop gem. You know what I mean? We gotta protect our legends, right? All right, with that said, man, listen, appreciate it. And as I always say, y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate you. Peace.